Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and good morning. Just getting my day started here at the Contemporary, and I wanted to sit down and chat with you, but before I do, I have to show you something because it's my favorite thing about this room, and of course, I have to show you. Yes, it is the view. I know what you're thinking. We've seen this view so many times, but just look at that. What a beautiful way to start a morning, I'll tell you what. Anyway, it's bright and early, like before 6 a.m. I think it's like just before 6 a.m. And I wanted to sit down with you for a minute and have a little conversation about something that Russ and I were talking about last night. So last night, Russ and I got dinner at Contempo Cafe. It's the quick service location here at Disney's Contemporary Resort, and it's located right next to Chef Mickey's. We went the route of mobile ordering, which is an option, but they also have grab and go options, and you can order hot meals there as well. So it's a great little place to grab something to eat, especially if you're maybe on a budget or looking for something super quick. Now, we've shared our meal with you in our check-in day vlog, so if you haven't had the chance to check that out, and if you're interested in seeing what some of the dinner options are here at Contempo Cafe, I recommend that you go check that out. A little bit of a spoiler alert. Number one, the menu is different at lunch and dinner, so there are some additional options at dinner time, which I thought were fantastic, but also, it was really good. It was really, really good, actually, and I would definitely go back again. But like I said, we gush over this meal in the check-in day vlog, so you can go check that out. But as we were eating, we were talking a little bit about the decision to eat at quick service when we do these room reviews, and we wanted to share our thoughts with you because I know that some of you might be wondering about this, especially when we stay at a place like the Contemporary, which has so many great table service dining options available. So before we really get the day started, I figured we could chat, and that's exactly what we're doing. By the way, I know you can't see it, but we're kind of watching the sunrise out our balcony, like screen door. The sun rises on the opposite side of the building, but we can see it brighten up out there, which is just so magical. So here at Walt Disney World, when it comes to dining, you have a ton of different options, whether we're talking about quick service, table service. Of course, you also have the option of bringing your own food and preparing meals here in your room. I know that that's not the best option for everyone. It's not what everyone wants to do, but it is an available option, especially if you're staying in a Disney Vacation Club villa that does have a kitchen. And because, like we say all the time, different families have different wants and needs, we want to share all the options that are available with you, not just the most talked about ones. And that means talking about options that sometimes people gloss over because they don't think that they're necessarily worth the time. And it also means talking about options that we think are going to be a better fit for different types of families, which, I don't know, everyone has a different way of doing this thing that we do here on the channel. But for me, I feel like it's super easy to gloss over those options, which I think a lot of people do because they're just not as fancy and special as some of the other options. Like it's easy to talk about California Grill or Steakhouse 71, but people gloss over Contempo Cafe, and it is an option that's available, and it's a pretty good option too. So we want to make sure that we're focusing on that as well. But it's not just personal preferences that has us leaning towards eating at quick service locations when we're at these resorts. I do think that quick service can be a great option for families who maybe don't want to take their entire family down to a table service restaurant. Maybe your family's a little young for sitting at a table service restaurant. Not that there's any age that makes table service dining appropriate, but you know how some families they're not the type of family that sits down at a structured dining facility and waits for the meal to come out. And, it's a lot for some families. So maybe that's not for you, and you want a good dining option that you and your family can enjoy. Or maybe you don't want to be sitting at a table in a stuffy restaurant. Again, that's a matter of opinion, but if you feel like a restaurant might be a little bit stuffy, a little bit loud, overwhelming, whatever the case may be, you need to know what options are available to you as well. And so we want to see what options are available and tell you if they're worth it. I also think, and I know that this isn't everyone's opinion, but it's definitely mine, that if you can't wow me with your quick service at a resort, I'm not going to waste my money on a table service. Look, table service dining is expensive. I know that you guys know that. Table service dining is also really hard to get, especially some of the dining locations that are really desirable. Chances are, if you're hanging out with me today, you know that dining needs to be booked 60 days in advance, and it can be really difficult to get your hands on certain dining reservations, which is something worth talking about. You know, we like to go to different restaurants and tell you whether or not those dining locations are worth it. But if you're at a place that can't even get the basics that they serve at quick service right, I'm of the opinion that maybe you're going to struggle a little bit with table service as well. And I feel this way not just here at Disney, for those of you who are wondering, but of course anywhere. I found this to be true during some of my travels when I was in Japan. I found this to be true elsewhere in the United States. So I tend to gravitate toward the simple thing and see how well that's done. And usually, although it's not always the case, but more often than not, when the simple thing is executed well, the more expensive thing, the more complex thing is executed really well too. So that's just something that I keep an eye out for, and it's something that has me deciding whether or not I want to actually go the next step and get the more expensive option or eat at the more expensive place. But again, the more expensive option, the fancier option, the more interesting option isn't going to be right for everyone. So I think it's really important to focus on the more basic and more affordable options as well. There's also two more reasons that we tend to gravitate toward quick service and set aside table service whenever we're exploring these resorts. And that's because, number one, you can't park at these resorts if you don't have a dining reservation or if you're not a guest staying at the resort. So that makes it a little bit more difficult to get to quick service dining options. And I think that, at least from our perspective, it's nice to not have to go to a theme park, get on a bus, take that bus all the way to the resort just to get a quick service meal. It's much more convenient to do those quick service options, those pool bars and stuff that doesn't require a reservation, when we're staying at the resort, and save table service for another time. But table service dining is also very time consuming. And this is something that I think is really important to keep in mind, especially when you're planning your vacations. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a ton of people out there who do a lot of table service dining when they're visiting Walt Disney World. And if that's your thing, that's something you really enjoy when you visit Walt Disney World, then great, that's wonderful. But for us, when we vacation here at Walt Disney World, we find that table service dining takes up just so much time. And that time is valuable, especially if you only have a limited amount of time here at Walt Disney World and on vacation in general. Now, for some people, again, you're going to have plenty of time. This is just one of those things that you do when you're on vacation and you don't mind taking a break from your day to go to your dining reservation. But for other people, this just isn't a good fit. Usually when my family vacations to Walt Disney World, we don't think it's a good fit, especially when we were all young and really into doing a ton of attractions. Although I'd be lying if I said that we wouldn't vacation this way now as well. Especially with the way that Walt Disney World and doing Walt Disney World is currently structured, particularly if you're a family that's going to opt for Genie Plus and we have to take things into consideration like return times, or if we're talking about things like virtual queue and individual lightning lane selection where you have only a very short amount of time to return back to that attraction. And when you're limited because you can't plan those things in advance, table service dining can take up a really big chunk of your day, and you have to decide what it is that you want to do and what you might be giving up. This is something that we can definitely dig into some other time, and if you're interested in that, let us know. We'll do a vacation planning discussion about this in particular, especially around like building your itinerary. I know some people get a little at the word itinerary, but it's definitely something that can help people organize their days here at Walt Disney World. And if that's you, let us know and we'll go into it a little bit later. But all that being said, table service dining can definitely take up blocks of time and they can limit you a little bit. So I do think that that's something that's a turnoff when it comes to table service dining for some people. So that's why we tend to steer clear of table service dining options when we're doing these reviews. We know that you know about them. We know that you really want to eat at those places you really want to eat at. But what if you can't eat at those places or you need a quick meal? That's the question that we tend to try and answer when we go to the quick service locations here at these resorts. But yeah, that's just a little bit of insight into why we do what it is that we do over here. Let me know your thoughts though. Do you prefer table service, quick service? Do you prefer going out and grabbing stuff for like sandwiches and doing that in your room? versus going to quick service locations. Also, let me know your thoughts on anything else that we touched on today, because again, everyone does Disney a little bit differently, and we'd love to know what it is that you do and what works best for you and your family. Who knows, it might even help someone else out who's trying to figure out how they're going to do Disney for the first time. But I think that's all for now. I have to get ready to get my day started. So, like I said, share your thoughts in a comment down below. I'm really looking forward to seeing everything that you guys have to contribute to this conversation. And don't forget to join us for the next one. I'm sure that we're going to have a great time, and I can't wait for you to join us. Until then, enjoy the rest of your morning, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.